Sketchy, you're running late on the next video. You're finally back on a regular schedule again, dude. Don't screw it up.
Kevin, I have spent the last week trying to learn Sony Vegas. Give me a goddamn break. Code Lyoko month is still going strong, and today, instead of fawning over an old video game or bitching about one of the characters, we're gonna get analytical up in here. If I had to pinpoint two trends in Western animation that I'm not fond of, they would be serialization and Cerebus syndrome. For the folks that don't know, serialization is a format in which the events of each episode lead directly into the next, and thus, in order to understand the story, the viewer must watch all the episodes in order. In the era of on-demand online streaming, this became a growing practice in Western animation since we now live in a time where we can access our favorite programs anytime we want without being at the mercy of television schedules. Mind you, serialization in and of itself is not a bad idea. The problem lies in how it's implemented and the inflated view that animation fans have for it. Oh, that's right. I'm calling y'all out. Because serialization was something that used to be reserved for more adult programming, a lot of animation fans assumed that adopting this approach would make people take animation more seriously as an art form, leading some people to come to the incorrect conclusion that serialization automatically makes a show better because it's more serious. As for how it's implemented, oftentimes a show will become serialized out of the blue, starting out as a fun episodic adventure, then suddenly shifting gears into something that's unrecognizable from what it started out as, which is a perfect segue into Cerebus syndrome. Cerebus syndrome, unlike serialization, is objectively bad. The term describes a phenomenon in which a story, usually a comedy but not always, makes a severe change in tone to something much more dramatic. What makes this different from simply raising the stakes of the story is that Cerebus syndrome always involves a tone shift, and it takes that concept of rising stakes to an unreasonable degree, to the point where comparing episodes that happen before and after the tone shift are like night and day. This kind of severe shift is frustrating for viewers that enjoyed the show for what it was when it started, because now they have a product that barely resembles what they came for. Now, we're about 2 minutes into the video and I'm sure you're wondering, Sketchy, what the hell does this have to do with Code Lyoko? The point of all this, ladies and germs, is that Code Lyoko has neither of the two elements I just described and is better for it. Each season of Code Lyoko had a clear end goal. Season 1, get Aelita out of the supercomputer. Season 2, cure her virus. Season 3, find Xana on the internet. Season 4, save William. While the end goals of each season are clear, they're also open enough to allow the series to be mostly episodic. Almost every episode is a self-contained story. Of course, in Season 2 onward, there are episodes that introduce plot points that become necessary in their respective season's finale, but they don't have to be viewed in the specific order they were released in. To put it simply, most of the seasons run like Season 4 of MLP, with the important plot points being the key episodes. As long as you watch the premiere first and the finale last, you can watch the season in any order you like and still understand the story just fine. This format works because it makes the show very accessible to children, which is good since that's their target audience. Because of its simple premise and episodic format, a new viewer can jump into Code Lyoko at any point and get the gist of what it's about. In fact, here's a good litmus test. If you're watching an episode of a show with your parents and they ask less than 5 questions about what is going on and why, you're good. The one season that you probably can't watch in a completely random order is Season 4, since there are several big milestones like building the skid, finding out about the replicas, and destroying the supercomputers that host them. It's the only season where watching the episodes in order is somewhat necessary because it throws a lot of things into the pot, which does weaken the season a bit, but that's next week's topic. So, if Code Lyoko was mostly episodic in its 95 episode run, how did it keep itself from getting repetitive? Well, firstly, Xana's plans aren't always that straightforward. Sometimes he does things that are small in scale, but force the heroes to make a sacrifice that, while solving the immediate problem, will ultimately end in Xana getting closer to what he wants. And there have also been times where he temporarily helps the heroes in order to achieve a common goal. This variety helps to keep the show from falling into a rut of doing the same thing repeatedly. Secondly, the story rose the stakes at a consistent pace. With each season, Xana's ability to affect the real world grew stronger and stronger. He goes from being able to possess small animals in Season 1, to possessing people in Season 2, to possessing crowds of people in Season 3. His abilities were varied, while also having limits for how much he could do and how much his strength grew with each season. Every new power he gets is a natural progression of powers that he's had previously. Now, remember what we said at the beginning? What makes Cerebus syndrome different from Raising the Stakes is that the former involves a heavy shift in tone, but Code Lyoko kept its tone consistent throughout the series. It sets a precedent for putting its characters in life-threatening situations very early on. The tension didn't come from whether or not they would survive. It came from how they were going to hold off the threat until it was stopped. And to balance out these moments, the show gives us plenty of comedic moments. This is why we have main characters like Odd and supporting characters like Sissy, Herb and Nicholas, Millie and Tamiya, and others. Code Lyoko allowed itself to be a light-hearted action comedy with sprinkles of drama where it was needed. It knew what it wanted to be from the beginning and stuck to it without abandoning its moments of silliness. It's one of the main reasons why the show still holds up today, and it's an approach to storytelling that modern cartoons can and should learn from. Steven. So that about does it for this admittedly late entry in Code Lyoko month. But up next, in our final video, we're gonna look at each season of the show to determine my personal favorite. Can't think of a better way to end an event. So what did you think of this video? Swarm that comment section below or bug me on social media. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.